Clippers, the Jazz, and the Heat agreed to a trade. It sends Norm Powell to Miami, John Collins to the Clippers.
To add Norman Powell, again, an all-star level player, this is a fantastic get for the Miami Heat.
Norman Powell, I'm in on that dude. I don't think last year was a fluke. Certainly it could be one of his career years, but I think he's in place to be able to duplicate that sort of productivity the next couple of seasons.
Remember when Kawhi Leonard was out for the first 2+ months? Norm Powell played like an all-star as a starter, averaging 21 points a career year.
Get back Norman Powell, who averaged 21 points per game for the Clippers last year. He was also an all-star snub, robbed of an all-star appearance. You can't drop 22 a game in the league and not be a certified bucket getter at 6'4", at 31 years old. On a team with James Harden, mind you. On a team with Kawhi Leonard, mind you, Norman Powell was able to drop 21 a game. Imagine what he would do on a team with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero.
So you're going to turn, the Miami Heat are going to turn Norman Powell from an all-star snub into
an all-star.
The average age of a first-time All-Star is 24, but that's not a rule. No one ever ages out of eligibility, but it's not arbitrary either. There's a reason behind the precedent. At its core, the All-Star game is a showcase, a spotlight for the game's best performers and most interesting stories. And to fit into that spotlight, players usually fall into one of two categories. They can be an established superstar, somebody with a shoe deal, someone who's a brand name, or they can be a fresh face, some surprising prospect or up-and-coming prodigy that people have been waiting on, someone who still feels like a discovery. 5 of the 6 newcomers to this year's game fit neatly into one of those molds, but one doesn't. He hasn't been the face of any national ad campaign, and he doesn't have a mixtape that went viral 6 years ago. Instead, he's a former second-round pick who's having the best year of his career at 32 years old. It's been a long and winding road, but at long last, Norman Powell is an all-star.
I mean, it's tough for us because of some of the things we're trying to do, but we'll give him a chance, but then, you know, like that, the D-League might be like our option.
Being drafted at all is an honor that only 60 people get to claim every year, but hearing your name called is just as much a job assignment as it is a dream come true, and the specifics of that assignment depend on when your name was called. Top picks are given the chance to be stars early on. Late first-round selections are expected to be contributors sooner rather than later, and second-round picks don't have any expectations attached to them. All they get is the chance to stick around. Playing time will be scarce, and opportunities to make plays with the ball will be even less common. For the most part, they're asked to sit on the bench, be a good teammate, and wait for their moment to come around. That was the situation staring back at Norman Powell when he first arrived in Toronto. After 4 years of working on his game at UCLA, the Southern California 2-guard would be studying behind another LA legend, DeMar DeRozan, and Kyle Lowry was leading the way right next to him. The Raptors had all the perimeter scoring they needed in the starting lineup, and a couple experienced backups to provide an extra boost off the bench whenever they wanted it. As it stood, there was no available role for Powell, so he did exactly what he was brought in there to do. He sat at the end of the bench, stood up during timeouts, and kept working. At first, that meant spending some time in what was then the D-League, refining his game against pro-level competition. But by the end of the year, the Raptors had taken notice of him. They started tossing him some minutes here and there, and when he showed he could handle them, they took the next step. On the second half of back-to-backs, or nights when the rotation was especially thin with injuries, Toronto inserted Powell into the starting lineup, and even with the larger workload, he kept his momentum going. With most of the rotation resting for the playoffs, the Raptors were putting the ball in Powell's hands, and he was meeting the moment, getting into quick pull-ups and tough drives, all without changing his expression even once. Through April, he was putting up 15 points a game on elite efficiency, earning him the Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month award. Heading into the playoffs, he wasn't expected to play a huge role, but if Toronto needed him, they knew he'd be ready. For the first 6 games, they didn't. Not much bench anyway. He was one of the defenders Toronto threw at Paul George, but mostly he watched from the sideline until Game 7. With every major contributor gassed from 6 high-intensity games, Toronto needed to find alternative sources for shot making, and sure enough, when they called Powell's name, he answered. In the final game of the series, the rookie was the second leading scorer on the team. He hit a few key threes, played great defense on the other end, and gave his team exactly the boost they needed to secure a 5-point win in the defensive slog. After that, he was someone the fans knew, a young player they liked watching. He wasn't a generic rookie in warm-ups. He was an exciting prospect who had a place in the team's future. Over the next handful of years, his role grew. Some of the guys in front of him moved on. Norm got better, and by 2019, he and the Raptors were facing a different test. DeMar DeRozan was out, and for 1 year, Kawhi Leonard was in. The subtext was clear. If they didn't win now, everyone would be on the trading block. The regular season went as planned. Then Kawhi played the hero in a second-round classic against the 76ers. And just like that, Toronto was in the Eastern Conference Finals. Unfortunately, so was Giannis Antetokounmpo. In games 1 and 2, it wasn't even close. The Bucks dismantled the Raptors, winning by a total of 30 points over the 2 games. That's when newly appointed head coach Nick Nurse took a page out of his predecessor's playbook. When Toronto needed a scoring boost, they turned to Norman Powell. And over the next 2 games, Powell scored 37 points combined. The Raptors won both games, finished out the series in 6, and never looked back. Soon enough, red and white confetti was falling in Oracle Arena. There was a thundering parade in Toronto, and Norman Powell was part of the championship team that rewrote franchise history. Next year, without Kawhi there to take the lion's share of the shots, Powell took another step forward. He was a legit starter, and every once in a while, he was the go-to guy. It was looking like he might actually take the mantle, ascend to the front of the franchise, and carry on the legacy he helped forge. The storybook ending was already in place, waiting to be realized, and then it got rerouted. Toronto's core was aging out of contention, and the front office saw it coming. Instead of keeping Norm on as a future building block, they sent the 27-year-old to a ready-made contender out west, and in an instant, he was back to square one, trying to find a role on a squad with a loaded backcourt and high expectations. His time in Portland didn't last long. After 1 season as a third perimeter scorer on a team already stacked with guards, the Blazers blew it up, and there was no place for a productive third option like Powell in a rebuild. He was on the move again, but this time it was back to his childhood home of Southern California. For a moment, it seemed like a heartwarming homecoming. Then the business of it all got back in the way. Once again, there was no immediate opportunity available, not as a starter or high volume option. In fact, the Clippers were asking him to do something even less inspiring than his role in Portland. They wanted him to take a step back and come off the bench again. He hadn't done anything wrong, and the chances he got as a volume scorer, Powell excelled, both from a production standpoint and an efficiency point of view. But the Clippers already had their guys. His old friend Kawhi Leonard was leading the team, and the guy he cut his teeth defending was penciled in as the co-star. LA wanted him to play a role that he had arguably proven he was overqualified for, but Powell didn't fight it. He didn't express any frustration or ask for more touches. He played the role he was given, and he was good at it. At the end of the season, Norman Powell finished 4th in 6th Man of the Year voting, and heading into next season, he looked like a strong candidate to win the award. But before the 6-man campaign began, James Harden was acquired in a trade, which meant even fewer scoring opportunities for Powell. He would go on to have the fewest field goal attempts in a season since 2018, and still, he never complained. He waited till the ball came his way, played excellent defense in the meantime, and took advantage of every opportunity that he got. At the end of the year, he was in the exact same spot, 4th and 6th Man of the Year voting. It was starting to seem like he'd never get his opportunity to be the guy, and maybe there was nothing he could do about it. Maybe certain people weren't meant for that. It wasn't a new dream anyways. Norman Powell would be turning 31 next season. His entire career wasn't in front of him anymore. Most of it was behind him. The window was just about closed, and it was getting harder to argue otherwise. The spotlight is only so big. It doesn't have room for everyone. But that offseason, for the first time in his career, something broke the right way. Paul George was a free agent, and they were letting him walk, betting on the idea of making up on his impact with multiple low-cost contributors.
I saw it as addition by subtraction. Like I said, more guys get more opportunity, not only myself. But I was excited. I think what I've said in this media day every single year since being here is that I want to be a starting two guard.
And the man with the most to gain from the new approach was Norman Powell. Kawhi was going to miss most of the regular season nursing an injury, and James Harden was the only proven scorer left on the roster. The stage was set, and in typical Norman Powell fashion, he made the most of his chance. Powell had his best season yet, averaging over 20 points for the first time in his career, while maintaining the same level of efficiency he always operated at. When the All-Star voting opened, his name was in the conversation. This was it, the moment when the spotlight finally lingered on him long enough for people to recognize his face, and it was happening in his own backyard, right in front of the people who had watched him growing up. Then the voting results came out. We scanned the rosters, searched for his name, and realized there was only one Clipper who made the cut. Powell had put together a great season. It just didn't change his place in the conversation. Sadly, things didn't turn around after that. In a matter of months, the Clippers lost in a first-round classic to the Nuggets, and that summer, the franchise traded him instead of paying the new price tag. If that storybook ending was coming, it needed to hurry. Restarting at 27 is frustrating. Restarting at 28 is annoying. But restarting at 32, that's devastating, especially when it comes after the breakthrough you've been working towards for years. But there was some good news this time around. One, Norman Powell wasn't slotting into another front-loaded rotation that would ask him to prove himself all over again. This new team didn't want him to be a six-man or a third option. They wanted him to be the guy. And two, this wasn't your average NBA franchise. This was the Miami Heat, a testament to hard work and perseverance crafted in the image of their hard-nosed general manager and self-made head coach. Down in South Florida, they believed in betting on people that everyone else overlooked. And when they found out Norman Powell was available, they felt like they'd hit the jackpot. They made the trade without a second thought. And as soon as Powell landed, Eric Spoelstra was waiting for him, ready with one message Powell had never heard before. Man, we've been trying to get you for years. The idea was simple. The Heat were shifting their offense to a wide open, pass and kick style of basketball that emphasized downhill drives and quick decision making. And Powell projected as a perfect fit in that system. They'd give him the ball in space, give him free reign on when to shoot, when to pass, and when to cut, and rely on him to be the guy the offense turned to when they needed a bucket. Straight out of the gate, it worked like a charm. In his first 12 games, Powell became the fastest player in Miami Heat history to reach 300 points, passing LeBron James. He's come through with big-time performance after big-time performance, putting up career-high numbers across the board. And yeah, you guessed it, maintaining the same level of efficiency he's always been known for. There was some apprehension in the air when All-Star season rolled around. After last year, it felt entirely possible the spotlight would drift right over him once again, opting for the brand names and fresh faces instead of the stoic 32-year-old having the best season of his life. But at long last, it looked right at him. For the very first time, Norman Powell is an all-star, and he just made his first appearance at the world's most talented exhibition game in front of his family in Southern California at the Intuit Dome, the home of the Los Angeles Clippers. Turns out there were just enough pages left. Professional sports gravitate around the quintessential storylines, the incumbent kings, the rising young challengers, the constant push and pull of youth and experience. We won't criticize them for that. We love the age-old contrast as much as the next fan, but sometimes we keep our eyes in the same place for a touch too long, and we miss out on some of the unique stories developing in a different lane. Norman Powell was never going to find himself on a billboard before he turned 25. He wasn't going to be handed the keys to a franchise before he turned 30. Things like that weren't in the cards for him, but instead of folding in the face of indifference, he kept going. Some years, things bounced his way. Rotation spots opened up or roles needed to be filled, and teams looked to him. Other years they didn't. New stars came in or old cores unraveled, and he was asked to restart or scale himself down. Every turn, it was 2 steps forward and 1 step back, with nothing he could do to change it. So he didn't fight it. He kept walking. 2 steps forward and and one step back at all times. And after all of the uneven progress and every unfair roadblock, he made it. A little older than some, a lot wiser than most, and still somehow the same player he ever was. A constant performer who takes up exactly as much space as he's asked to. No more, no less. Sometimes the spotlight takes a while to settle. It's a fickle thing that's easily led astray. That's why you don't chase it. Stay in the game, keep moving forward, and keep your head down. Because one day, you might finally be standing under the lights, not as a background actor, but as a star, even if it took longer than expected to get there.